This podcast could potentially have adult language, adult themes, definitely drinking, and possibly the possibility of sexual content. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, Drinking with Authors fans. We have some pretty big news from your host here, Erica Lance. We are moving to change the format of the show to be one episode. So there's a few episodes that were recorded the old way that we're doing the new way, and that's what you're listening to. So thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we love having you as fans. On to the show. Welcome to Drinking with Authors. I'm your host, Erica Lance. My co-host today is the always spooky Mark Muncy from Erie, Florida. Erie Travels.
Hi, gang. Thanks for having me.
Erie lots of things.
All the things.
Erie all the things. And our guest today is Rod Martinez. Woo! Welcome.
Howdy.
Okay, let's start off with what we're drinking. So I am drinking Pacific Rim, which is my favorite white wine. It's a sweet Riesling, and it's got a dragon that breathes fire that you can kind of see on the label. Anyway, so I'm drinking that along with some sparkling water to balance out my healthiness, which this one is watermelon mint. And it's pretty effing good, actually. I'm not going to lie.
I like that.
Mark, what boring thing are you drinking today?
Well, in my Batman 89 coughing mug, I've got Morbid Curiosities new Bell Book and Candle, which is buttery and daring chai, and it's got a little bit of coca and a little bit of rose, and I'm very happy. I love their ingredients are also fresh, and it's adorable. Highly recommend it.
Have to get some of that. Rod, what are you drinking?
Well, since I don't have to drive, I figured I'd go off on a limb, and I'm drinking some Dunkin' Donuts coffee. So, yeah,
I love that.
I think I'll be okay.
I hope so. You know, at least one of us needs to be a therapist. Okay, so Rod, for the audience that may not know you, what do you write?
Rod Martinez Incorporated. I write middle grade, young adult. I do some picture books too, and it's mostly I live in Florida, so it's I always base everything here in my state, and they're mostly I grew up on Marvel Comics and Twilight Zone, so you mix those two together, and that's the kind of stuff I write for kids.
Which Mr. Muncy is right up your alley.
Oh yeah, I'm all in now. So yeah.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what began this journey for you?
That's a fun question. I was writing since high school. Well, actually younger than that, because I was in the comic books when I was really young. And then I thought reading them so much, I'm like, I could probably make these. I want to work for Stan Lee when I grow up, so that's what I figured. So I'm writing stories about superheroes. But then as a teen, I was writing stuff on mostly adult glory, scary, demon worship kind of weird stuff. Because of course I went to church. So my son, who was in 6th grade watching the Goonies, challenged me to write a story like the Goonies about him and his friends here in Tampa, and that became my first novel. So I was sold after that.
That is so. What is the name of the first novel?
The Juniors.
The Juniors.
What? You want to see the cover?
I want to see the cover. Look at that. Woo!
Juniors.
That's awesome.
Love it.
So I love that a challenge from your son was what spurred that into existence, by the way. That makes me very happy.
I totally blame him for everything.
So, okay. Oh my gosh, using all my words. So you were writing, what do you think made it take so long for you to actually do the publishing? I mean, I love this son story. I think that's great. But there's a lot of us that wrote when we were younger and wrote through high school and did stuff, but didn't, it took something else to propel us to do it. Why do you think that took so long?
With me, I was writing just for fun because I was watching stuff like Twilight Zone and the Night Gallery. So I was writing that kind of stuff, but it was just for fun, showing friends, letting them read it and stuff. The Juniors, the reason that happened was because I put him and 3 of his friends in the school that went to school together in the book. And it was the teachers and the school librarian that kept pushing me, because I made it like 20, 40 pages, something like that. And they kept saying, hey, you got to make this, you got to keep going with the story. This is good, And every time I'd add some more pages, they kept going until it became a novel. And the school librarian is the other person I have to give blame to. because she kept pushing me, you got to get this book published. And I'm like, I'm not really looking to be a published author. This is just fun for me. I don't do this for, but I listened, she kept nagging me. So I figured, let me go ahead and do it. And then a publisher decided to go for it. I'm like, wow, I think I can do this for the rest of my life.
I love that. And I love that the way you said you went into it, because a lot of us are like, yeah, no, I'm doing this for fun. I don't want the torture of actually having to publish the damn book, because,
right.
And I'm sorry if you hear magical noises behind me. I programmed my Ring so that I could hear people. I live up in the mountain and almost nobody goes past my door.
Oh, wow.
UPS just went past my door and it's like this magical little ring in the background. So
yes,
we now have sound effects on Drinking with Authors.
There we go.
So
we don't have Discord distractions now.
So. No, I turned off the Discord. I turned off the Facebook. Oh my gosh. We had people complain about that, Rod. It was very funny that they thought they were getting alerts of their Facebook and their Discord. And I was like, okay, never mind. I didn't realize we were causing such a panic amongst the crowds. So you wrote this for your kid. How many books, or child, whatever the right word, how many books have you written so far?
I've lost track. Because as writers, how many unpublished manuscripts do you have sitting around? So tons of them.
I call that the graveyard. Many. Thank you.
So I have several that have been published, either self-published or published with a publisher, but I'm always working on something else. So,
so
very good.
Now, when you finally went into the publishing arena, what was surprising to you? Like, I always like asking this because I think there are things that you don't think about as a writer when you go into publishing. What surprised you?
Actually, the first thing about when I finished the juniors and I realized everyone who read it said this thing is the best thing we've ever seen. Something like Disney and Nickelodeon are going to fight me over this book, right? They're going to fight over this book. This is going to be easy to sell. I was surprised at how many rejection letters I got.
Oh, yeah.
The first time. Because, we're told as writers, expect rejection letters. And I'm thinking, my masterpiece, I won't get a rejection letter. And I got tons before the first publisher said, yeah, we'll take this. So that was the first surprise.
Well, and I think part of it is when you have a voice, a lot of times you're not even actually getting to a gatekeeper to look at your books when you send it to a publisher. Sometimes they're just waiting to go through the mail and then send you a, printed out rejection letter.
Right.
But Stephen King, what did he have? 156? I forget how many he said he had on his nail that, he put a nail over his desk and was just plowing these rejection letters to the nail.
Yeah.
Yes, it's coat the wallpaper. So you ended up traditionally published, right? The first time. And then you said self-published?
Yeah, I've done them both because I write a lot, and you finish something else and like, I want to get this thing out there, and you're getting all these rejection letters like, screw it, I'm doing it myself. So then you end up doing that, but then you have other publishers for other stuff that you send out. So it's kind of a game you play. It's like you have some manuscripts out there, and then I'm going to do this for myself. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's why a lot of people do indie publishing or self-publishing because of that. Who drew your covers?
I talk about that a lot. My covers are, I go to fiverr.com. I've been there, and I've been to deviantart.com, and I find artists there. The weird thing, as you know, as an author, is that when a publisher accepts your book, they're in charge of the cover. But I have this weird quirk that when I finish a story, I have to design the cover, even if I don't draw it. I design it, and if I can find an artist to make it look the way I see it, then I present that to the publisher. 9 times out of 10, they're like, "We love that cover. We're going to go for it." So I've been lucky so far.
So they've taken the cover that you designed.
Right.
Wow, that's very cool.
That's hard to do, but yeah.
That's very rare. That is the exception and not the rule, my friend.
Definitely.
I've been lucky.
So Twilight Zone and Marvel. So how much horror, because that's what Twilight Zone is, horror thriller is in these books?
Well, I don't really put horror so much in there, more than thriller and suspense and kind of messing with your head. When I do book talks a lot at schools and I talk to kids, and none of the kids have ever heard of Twilight Zone, of course. So I give them a hint of like, well, this guy named Rod sort of come on, and I do the voice and all that. and then I'll give him an idea of a story that he did. And like I always talk about the one story about the Roddy McDowell with the two astronauts.
Yes.
Land on Venus or something like that, and everybody's nice to them, and all of a sudden they put him in a nice house and everything is great, and then the screen opens and he's in a zoo, and he's like an earthling in a zoo. It's like nobody expects that. When I tell that to the kids, they just freak out. And I say, as a writer, I like to mess with the reader's head, so it's kind of a thriller suspense, kind of, I don't know, speculative thriller, all kinds of weird stuff in there.
No, I think I love thrillers. Me and Mark both write in those kind of genres too. I love that you wrote this. What's made you stay with school-age children as the audience?
I'm trying to figure it out myself, because I wrote the juniors, and right after that, I started this other series called The Orphans of Danica, about some kids in a Florida town and ghosts and stuff like that. And it's just easier for me to write. I'm giving a presentation in Denver at a conference on middle grade voice. And only because I was there last year speaking about something else, and they put me on the lunch panel, and we were all talking about stuff like that. And someone asked me, how do you capture that middle grade voice? And then someone else later pulled me aside and asked me, hey, you should do a presentation on that. You really do sound like a kid when you're writing books. And I'm like, okay, and I tell people all the time, I cheated. I hung out with kids. Because most grown-ups are trying to write a kid's book, and it sounds like an adult, talking to kids. And it's like, you have to sound like a kid for a kid to get it. So I hung out with kids, and that's how I got it.
That's very cool. So what did your son think of it when you put the book out? What was it like when he read it?
Oh, they thought it was cool because of all the kids, the 4 kids in the group, they became the group, and people started calling them the juniors in school. So nice. It was kind of cool. Yeah.
You created a clique, right? That's what that's called in school, is a clique. You created a clique.
Yeah.
Created the Goonies. Awesome.
I love that.
Juniors never say die.
Yeah.
Are you doing Goonies quotes now, Mark?
That Goonies inspired him. I was just
now you have to ask him some actual author related questions.
My question is, I saw one of your books that is on my to read list is the Who is the Gray Man? So I'm a big fan of urban legends. I write about collecting folklore and urban legends and stuff. So where is the Gray Man from, and is it a real urban legend, or was this created from cloth?
The Gray Man came from, I get a lot of questions, when you're speaking, they ask me, hey, where do you get ideas from stories? Let me tell you about the Gray Man, right? So I have a friend who told me once that her grandson had an imaginary friend that he called the Gray Man. I thought, who's the Gray Man? I'm like, wow, that's a good title. And the story came out of that title. Nice. And I just created, it's not a real urban legend. The town is made up in Florida, and I just created this guy who, I don't want to give away the story, but yeah, he's when you read about him, if you're a child and you see him, you will surely die. So no one wants to see the guy, but then you realize, like, wow, I kind of wish the Gray Man was my best friend when you finish reading it. So
nice. I like that. Yeah. All right. So you were talking about Twilight Zones, and one of my favorites is the guy, Time Enough for Everything, with all Burgess Meredith, and
the library,
glasses, the classic. So what would you say is your go-to, when you're looking for inspiration? What is your go-to Twilight Zone?
My go-to Twilight?
Yep.
Wow.
Twilight Zone. What would it be?
My favorite Twilight Zone is To Serve Man. I don't know if you remember that
classic, one. Yeah.
I don't have anything written like that, but I just love the way Rod Serling just has you thinking one thing, and then in the end it's like, whoa, I so didn't see that coming. And that's what I like to do to the kids. I have one story. It isn't published. I'll throw this out there, but it isn't published yet. But there's a town in Florida in the 70s, and an explosion happens from a nuclear reactor. Everyone in the town dies except for the kids in the school at the edge of town. So the kids are there, and they're taught by their 2 teachers that are left that they have to stay together as a clique, because if people from the outside might be zombies, and they have to stay in the school and always be there. And then there's a visitor comes to school, and they're trying to, oh my God, we got to hide from this person. We can't let them find us. So it's called the hiding, because they're really good at hiding. But in the end, the guy and his little daughter, who's their age, they find them and they're all standing in the field, and the kids are freaking out, because like, what are we going to do? They don't look like zombies, and it turns out that the girl says, you guys really don't understand, do you? And she's holding this weird thing in her hand, looks like a mirror. And, they're kind of tussling. She drops it and breaks. She's crying. You broke it. And they say, what is that? She says, it's an iPad. And the kids go, what's an iPad?
Yeah.
And whenever I tell that to the kids, they all freak out, and then and then she says, you guys don't understand it. You all died in 1978. All of you died. We're here to send you back to wherever you belong. The kids are freaking out. I was like, when is that book coming out? Well,
yeah,
so.
That's a classic twist. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I do too. So let's talk about the stuff you have self-published. Is everything you've self-published because you got rejections on it and you just move forward, or is how doth you select the self-publishing items? Look, I was fancy English when I said
that was good. That was very good.
Yeah, that was good. I got to write that one down.
Don't at all.
I just get impatient because I'm constantly writing. So if I have like 1 or 2 books that are with a publisher, like right now I have 3 books with a publisher, but I'm working on one that I'm probably going to self-publish because I'm just impatient is all. And it's not like if I stop writing today, I'm not going to be able to write anything for another 2 or 3 years. I'm constantly writing. So it's just a matter of get this out so people can read it.
No, that makes sense. So what do you feel the difference is between the reach of your self-published versus your traditionally published work?
Nowadays, unless you're with one of the big 5, you are the publicist. You are the marketing department. So even with small publishers, I mean, they back you up. They're publishing your book. They're helping you. But since I do speak at a lot of conferences and schools and libraries and stuff like that, I'm constantly pushing my brand out there anyway. So I'm pushing my self-published stuff for sure, Facebook and everything else. But then the stuff that's published, the publisher is also helping with that. So I'm kind of getting a double thing in there. Because like, hey, look, this book is published by a publisher, but I did this one myself. Check it out. Get both of them. Those kind of things.
No, so. What about creating your covers and stuff like that? Have you created the machine for your self-publishing?
I go through the same route. I will design the cover myself, and I'll find some money, and they'll draw it for me, and that's how it happens. So the covers are, to me, at the end of writing and editing and all that stuff, the next phase is let me get the good cover for this thing, and I give that as much gusto as I did with the writing. You're not going to have some half-baked cover to go with this great story because a book is judged by its cover, as we know. So,
yeah.
Like really good example. He mentioned The Gray Man. I was at a book fair. I had 5 of my books on the table. If you've seen the cover of The Gray Man, every single kid came to The Gray Man first. Mom, I want that book. I was like, the book cover sells.
Yep, it certainly does.
Well, I'd say that all the time on this podcast is never judge a book by its cover. Every book is judged by its cover. Right. And people know what they want based on the cover. Like they can look at the cover and go, this is the kind of book I'd like to read. They don't look and go, some go, well, that's a cool cover. I wonder what that is. But a lot of people, especially ones that read certain genres all the time, like they know what a horror book looks like. They know what, a fairy tale book, a fae book. They know what a sci-fi book looks like, from looking at it. And if you put some weird, obscure, even cool looking cover, you might get the people going, oh, I wonder what that is. But you're going to lose everybody who goes, that's not a sci-fi cover, Yeah. So
covers are important. That's one of the things I push every time I'm speaking publicly. Covers are very important. Give that as much. If you're self-publishing, give it as much energy as you gave your story, because it's important.
So before you turned into this awesome author, what were you? What did you do? What did you do for your pretend job when you were before you became this awesome author?
I am an IT guy, so I do that. And if you see that thing back there, that thing back there, I also play in a band. So
I was going to say that's a guitar. So you're not. Oh, you are an enigma, my friend. Hey, listeners. You know me, Erica Lance. You're just listening to me in the podcast that you had. But guess what? I'm doing something new.
Yeah, she's joining me, Mark Muncy, the author of the Erie, Florida book series in Erie, Appalachia. And we are hosting a new podcast called Eerie Travels.
Woo-woo! Eerie Travels, which covers things like ghosts, cryptids, weird stuff, UFOs, Men in Black, all kinds of fun things that people talk about, and I'm sure you've discussed with friends.
Yep, and you can listen to us on your favorite podcast platform of choice, or find us at eerietravels.com and join in the fun and all the spooky goodness.
And of course, Mark, what do we always say?
We'll see you on the other side.
So, you are an IT guy who writes middle grade books and is in a band.
Classic rock band.
I feel like these are one of those games where you say three things and one of them's not true. Like, what is that? Two truths and a lie? Isn't that the
lie? Yep.
I've never played that game.
I feel like I'm in the two truths and a lie game, and I want to guess the idea. So you're in a band. What kind of band are you in?
Classic rock.
Ooh,
We
very
cover all
fun.
the classics from the 60s all the way till early 2000s around that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Who's your primary influence?
Mine, Journey, and Kiss. But we do Beatles, the Stones, Springfield, Billy Joel. Everybody. So
nice.
That's very. The thing is, you said Kiss and Journey, and I had a whole conversation with somebody the other day about big bands, like big stadium bands, because there was an exact type of, not that bands don't play stadiums, I'm not getting in that argument with people, but there was a type of band that is what they were. They were a stadium type band, like a huge venue. Queen, a lot of these were like, I'm going to go play. Kiss, absolutely. That whole performance was not, we're going to go to a recording studio dressed like that to record our album.
Yeah.
Journey was that way, and I think they did a very decent job of replacing the lead singer.
Yeah.
I
like
not that I want them to, but he was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. But that's very cool. So an IT professional who's in a band who decided to write middle grade books, and I love every part of that story. So now that you're super writing like a superhero, what is how you've lost count of how many books have you published, like officially published?
I don't know the number. I don't know it off the top of my head. I get asked that question all the time. I never stop to look and count them all, so I don't know.
Well,
I'll say maybe 10 or under at least, but I don't know. Sure.
Nice.
So being that your fan base is younger children mostly, what is that fan reaction like when they see you and meet you and stuff? Because it's when you get older, I think you have a different take on celebrities. Teenagers have a whole take on celebrities that can be interesting at times. So we all remember the Beatles fans rushing, not all of us. Some people are listening going, what are you talking about? Who the hell is Kiss? Like when I have those conversations with the younger people, I just want to punch them. But regardless, there's a different hysteria, the passing out, whatever, and getting overly excited. What is it like to have young fans?
Young kids are awesome. I just spoke at a school, and the thing is, I'm usually trying to push like the next new writers. It's like, how many here like to write? So you get like 5 hands up. How many here like to read? 15 hands go up. So like for you 5, you got work to do. You got all these people to cover now, right? Yeah. So I'm kind of push them. You guys got to get some writing now. So I give them ideas and stuff. Then at the end, this is the thing that always gets me. At the end, the class is dismissed. Everybody's going away. You have 2 or 3 kids that just flock straight up to me. It's like it isn't even just the autograph thing. It's like they just start picking my brain. And they get all giddy, and they're just like, when you tell me the thing about the bird in the tree, God, that reminded me of something. You need to write that book. You need to get that going, So I try to give them ideas, like no matter what town I'm in, I'll try to find some landmark in that town, and I'll just create a prompt for that thing and say, what if this happened in that building back in 1952, and you went through time? What would you do? So I like the reaction from the kids. They're so genuine,
So when did you start doing all this talking about the books and stuff? Because being an author is one thing, but going and doing that kind of work is very different. What made you start doing that?
I didn't think believe it or not, yeah, I play in a band, but I have stage fright. So not anymore. I mean, but when I got into writing, the story I like to tell because people think it's funny is that when the juniors came out, I was all excited, got published and stuff. So the teachers at that school, they said, "Hey, would you mind coming to the school and talking to the kids about the book?" And I'm like, "Talking to the kids? What do you mean?" She goes, "Yeah, just, come to the library. We're going to have a whole bunch of kids in there. You can talk about writing, talk about how you got the idea for the book and everything." I'm like talk in front of people, And she's like, "Yeah, people do it all the time, and authors, they come to do book talks." As an author, I never thought that was something I'd be doing. It's like, I'm going to write, you're going to buy it and read it. I'm happy. I never thought I'd be out there selling it or like inspiring, kids to write. And that's what juniors, again, is what started that. And then the more I did it, for example, I told you I was speaking at a conference later this month in Denver. In 2015, I decided, I've been doing schools. I wonder if I could do a conference. And I did an open proposal for a conference in Ohio. And they said, "Yeah, sure, come on up." And it was about book covers. And that kind of turned me into a public speaker, which I did not ever think I'd be doing as a writer, but I can't not stop doing it now. So.
But I think that what you're doing and doing it to inspire young writers and stuff like that, I think that kind of stuff is so important because more and more at schools, I won't start with the Florida school thing right now.
I could too, but I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, just enough said mentally by us on that topic. But I think it's so important to influence younger people to understand their options and their choices and see people who have degrees of success doing something that is art related, because not every author who's out there is going to be able to not work their full-time job or have other means of income. That's not a thing. I mean, all of us would love that, but that's not necessarily how the world works. But to be able to follow a passion and do something about it, I think that's huge.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I dig it. Every time I go to school, the teachers always ask me, "Hey, you sure you don't want to teach?" I'm like, no, I don't think I can do that, but I'll keep doing this. It's good enough.
Not in this.
You find yourself getting, now that you've done this a bit, are more and more reaching out to you, or are you still reaching out to schools and libraries to get?
No, more and more reaching out to me now. The word of mouth gets out. Great. Yeah. So.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. I try to tell that to new authors is that once you get to that point, they start coming.
Yeah. And especially because teachers and librarians, they network all over the nation. I mean, they network everywhere. So it's like I get invited to, everywhere. So it's been great. I love it. And speaking of, I'm going to do this. We don't have to mention it, but my latest picture book, if you haven't seen it, I live in Tampa, Florida.
Yep.
Okay. So back in 1960, there was a sit-in Tampa, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a high school that my parents went to, and they did a sit-in. And of course, you know what happened with the sit-ins, right? Yeah. So it's a big thing that happened in Tampa, Florida. And, I knew the story. Everybody knows the story. But then I thought, I'm standing there in front of the building looking at the sign. I thought, I wonder if anyone's written a book about that. So I wrote Grandma Luther King.
Oh, wow.
Book, right? Except, of course, I live in Florida. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But it's a book about, it's about the sit-in. And it's the grandmother telling the grandson about the story. They're on a bus. "Grandma, what's that building about?" And she explains it. But at the end, she says, "Then what we did," and it goes, "Grandma, you were one of the teenagers?" She goes, "Yes, honey, I was." And then she becomes like the bigger hero to him. "You're like Martin Luther King. You're Grandma Luther King, Yeah. So that's how that story came out. But
that is awesome. And that's the kind of thing we have another podcast we do, and we talk a lot about lost parts of history.
Oh, wow.
It's one of the things we talk about cryptids and ghosts, but a lot of it has to do with like entire towns that disappeared and things like that. And that history is not necessarily pleasant history at all. It's not a fun ghost story where somebody gets tickled by a ghost bear or something. But I love that you wrote that and that you're bringing that piece of history back because we need that history.
Yep.
And I am so fingers crossing a course correct happens in that state and many others on their view of things because it's dumb.
Tampa
But
has a lot of its history anyway, so
yeah. But that is awesome. I love that the stories and your reasoning behind writing some of the stories is so fun.
I enjoy it.
So now that you're like a power
Good.
writer, so how long does it take you to write a book? And then I'll let you go, Mark. Sorry about that.
Right.
That I don't, I get that question a lot from kids, and it's taken me 3 weeks to write a book, and it's taken me 2 years to write a book. So any time between there. So I don't know. Grandma that was probably the 3-week book because it was so. I mean, it was basically a real story being told by 2 fictional characters. So. Mark?
No. My question is: so when when you've got your subject, when you've got what you want to do, do you what is your writing ritual? What you're doing this all the time? What is from start to finish?
I just start. I mean, I have a laptop with me almost all the time. At work, I have a computer in front of me all the time. So, I mean, I'm constantly writing. I'm not playing. I'm writing. So it's my life now. So that's what I do. Right. My son, the little 6-year-old is 26 now. So, I don't have to do the daddy thing now. So.
That sounds very familiar. So
yeah.
Now, when you're doing the historical stuff like that, was there a lot of research, or was this just stuff you knew?
Grandma was not a lot of research at all because it was a local story, and I knew the story, but I wanted to get names right or stuff like that. I also, my only other nonfiction book is a book, believe it or not, a trivia book on presidents, because I'm very huge on American history. I mean, huge. And I was reading a book and I thought, I bet I could write a president book without even looking it up, and most of the stuff came from stuff that I already knew. But then I like to throw in stuff that, you always hear, like, hey, you hear the comparisons between Kennedy and Lincoln? Everybody does that, So I'm like, I'm going to do something different. So I just started throwing a lot of different things. That got picked up by a publisher pretty quick. So I was lucky with that. I'm trying to do a second book on American history, itself. So if that gets out there.
A history buff, so he can do well at Trivial Pursuit.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah,
rocker. Like this, the list just keeps going on. It's insane.
True Renaissance man here. So
true Renaissance man. So when it came to having to market your book and stuff like that, because you touched on that a little bit before the break, but the whole marketing thing usually surprises authors. Like they're like, what?
Yeah.
So did you go in prepared? Did you do a bunch of, you're an IT person, did you do a bunch of research as to sort of what you were getting into, or did you show up and like, what the heck is all this I have to do?
No, I mean, I did some research reading other authors and realizing that, the publisher for the juniors was a really small publisher in Florida. And so, they don't have the kind of budget that Random House has, so I'm like, I'm going to have to back this book up some kind of way so with that one was easy because it started in a school. So those teachers told other teachers who told other teachers. So that's what helped that go on. So I kind of used the same method. The librarians talk to librarians, teachers talk to teachers, and these books get out. I actually got an email this week from the local library here, a girl that I know there, emailed me and said, hey, by the way, we just bought 3 more copies of Grandma. I just want to let you know. I said, really? Why? She goes, because we can't keep the other ones on the shelf. Nice. I'm like, thank you. I'll buy that. That works. So librarians, I mean, they're great. I tell writers all the time, librarians and teachers, man, you got to hook up with them.
Yes, very much.
No, absolutely. And it's interesting. You did say they don't have the budget of Random House. I think you'll find that even if you went with Random House, you would have the same experience. They don't necessarily give the money for the big things, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, no, they've got their top 3 writers of the top 5 companies, and they're the ones who get all the budget.
Yeah. So I mean, as writers, most writers don't know when they're first getting into it because they just assume there's a publicist that's going to handle all that stuff. It's like, no, that's kind of your job too. So get used to it. So.
Well, you become a celebrity, you become a brand, and then you have to be out there as a brand. And the way that I was talking to an author the other day, and I was telling her, because she has a young adult books, and I was telling her, I'm like, if I was you and on any social media platform, I would be on TikTok, because that is where your audience is right now. They're not on Facebook. Yeah. Teenagers are not on Facebook. That is not where they exist. I'm not saying no teenagers are on Facebook, but that is not the world they live in.
Platform. Yeah.
They live in the world of TikTok now, and Instagram. Snapchat's not really a thing anymore. So you have to watch those kind of trends to find your audience. And I know with books like you're talking about schools and libraries, that's where your audience goes, or you have to market to the parents, because it's not like the kids are scrolling through Facebook to find your book.
Right. Yeah. That's why you also do book fairs. You're sitting at a book fair and the parents are coming with their kids, and that's how you do it. But I will say I have not tried TikTok yet. I'm scared, but I'm going to end up having to go there eventually, I'm sure.
Well, I don't think grade schoolers are on TikTok necessarily.
Right, yeah. But I do a lot of middle schools. So middle schools, I know they are.
They are. Yeah.
They are. It's just, if you venture into the world of the talk, that's what I call it, you just must be prepared, because that's at least 5 times a week you have to post. So there's algorithms. Like, a lot of people don't get that, but your popularity and you being presented in front of people has to do with how frequently you post and the feedback on the posts that you are already doing. Like, it's a constantly thinking machine. And if you disappear, like, you want to talk about gone in a blink of an eye, like, they're scrolling on to something else. You have to be constantly showing up in their feed, or they don't recognize you. And you have to do something fun, because it's not just, let me talk about writing, or let me talk about, you have to make it whimsical, have a gimmick of some kind.
Yeah.
That seems to be the most successful ones anyway. So
well, because those are the ones that go viral, is ridiculous, weird things people do. Like the gentleman from South Africa who just shows us how to actually operate things from the dumb people of the world. Like, that guy's internet famous and internet rich just by pointing out how dumb people are. Like, so, and doing this gesture.
Yeah.
Who knew that could make you a millionaire, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sales wise, the traditionally published versus the self-published, what do you see? Do you see a major difference, or?
As you know, self-published, you have more control, so you have a bigger cut of the pie.
Right.
But I can say that Grandma has so far, it's my latest book, but that one has been the best, and that's with a publisher. And actually a publisher I met at a conference.
Oh, nice.
And we were just talking, and I brought that up. She goes, "Oh, tell me about the book." And next thing I know, I'm like, "Great, okay, cool." So that worked.
Well, also because you're taking the books to your audience, so I think as long as they're available, that makes a big difference, right?
Yeah.
And so it's different than you're having to blanket market both ways.
Right. I mean, normally you said, like, on your podcast, normally you have like authors of adult books and stuff. So
we've had everything.
All over the gamut, nonfiction, fiction. But I recently, it's been interesting to me on the discussion on how to find your audience, because you have to present your book where your audience is and present it in a way that they're going to want to see it. And it's not all about buy my book, no matter where you are, right? That tactic doesn't work. So finding your audience, but definitely children's books and stuff.
Yeah.
You're not marketing to the kids.
Right.
Necessarily,
Yeah.
A
lot of times, I was going to say, a lot of times you're kind of lucky in that you can be in a situation or in a place where you meet someone who will become the next person that's going to help you with your brand and stuff. I was at a restaurant last night. I was sitting at a table at a seminar, and the couple that was sitting with me, the woman told me that she worked at a school. I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." Next thing you know, she has my card, and she's going to talk to the librarian about, because when we talked about my book. So now that's another. And it's just quick, easy. You just have to think, And my mind wasn't even there. I was just thinking about the food at the time. So
My favorite talk ever was at a yacht club, and it was because some lady saw me at a con and came up to me and said, "Hey, I run a yacht club, and we'd love to talk about ghosts." I'm like, "Here's my card. You have me out." So
Wait a minute. So
never
you
know
go
where
to
you're
Comic Cons?
at a Comic Con. Yeah,
Oh wow, I speak at the Comic Cons all the time here in Tampa.
I do. I've seen you at a couple. So
Oh really?
yeah.
Oh wow.
I do
Okay.
creepy stuff late at night. So, but it's cool. I've seen your panels. So
Oh okay. Cool. Yeah.
Well,
small world. That's
both
why when
you
I saw
guys
him, I'm
said
like, I
something.
know that guy.
Both of you said something that's very, very vital, which is this: you handed them your card.
Yes.
The amount of authors that do not carry around business cards with them all the time. I don't care where you're going,
Yep.
have your business card on you. Like,
Yeah.
it is ridiculous to me when I meet authors and I'm like, "Oh, can I have your card?" And they go, "Oh, and I'm like, fail." Like, you should have your card on you 100% of the time, because that
Yeah.
way people can find you. Otherwise, they can't find you. That's how it works, right?
Well, normally
Okay,
I'm wearing this. I wear this shirt a lot. Well, you can.
Oh yeah.
I'd rather be writing
Oh,
with my
You got
logo, right
logo.
there, and it's got my web address right there. So that's my license plate in front of my car. I mean,
Nice.
constantly advertising. So
Yeah, it's
way
all about
to go on
branding.
branding, Rod. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So let's talk about your story graveyard. I want to go back to that because you said graveyard. How many starts and stops do you feel like you end up having? Like, do you go back to them or are they dead?
Oh, the manuscripts no, they're not dead. The one that I just told you guys about, I just started re-editing it. About
Good.
the hiding, the nuclear one. I just started doing some more edits on it. So until it's published, then I can't touch it anymore. So yeah, I'm
Now that
constantly
makes
doing
sense. But do you find you start stories and get stuck, or what happens that you have manuscripts that aren't done?
I end up with another idea for something else. So I'll stop doing this one so I can work on that one. And then the next day, let me get back to this one. So
I
yeah.
see the classic shiny object syndrome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So earlier you said Marvel Comics. What are your favorites?
Spidey was my favorite of all time.
Yeah.
And then the X-Men. So
Good stuff. Good
yeah.
stuff.
I mean, I read DC too, but Marvel just what I actually one of the first things when I'm talking to kids at schools, they always like, one of the things like, hey, who was your inspiration? So when you ask a reader that, they'll say something like, oh, Stephen King, Betsy Byers, James Patterson, whoever, right? And I don't have one of those authors as an inspiration. I'll say, well, mine was two guys that one you guys have all heard of, the other one you've never heard of. His name is Rod Serling. Anybody heard of him? No. How about Stan Lee? Yeah, everybody goes crazy over Stan Lee. Yeah. So I talk about, how Stan Lee came up with these ideas, right? And they're like, no. Well, Stan Lee's thinking like, what if a teenage geek gets bitten by a radioactive spider? We'll call him Spider-Man. And then he gets an idea, gives it to the artist creates the book. He did the same thing with the Hulk and, with all these guys. He just comes up with a what if. And I stress that to the kids, you start off with what if. What if that kid running around in the store with a runny nose is screaming because it's really an alien running up there eating his brain? And the kids look at me like, what? And I'm like, yeah, you have to think outside of the box. What if, and that's how Stan Lee did it. So that's what gets me started.
Well, it's interesting because it shows how we as creatives start going down our path. Because I think people think funny things like that all the time,
Right.
and what ifs, right? But then we're going to go one step further.
I'm going to start writing that.
Yes, we're going to go even further into that. So is there like a genre that you would also like to write in that you haven't yet?
Yes.
Okay, what was that? What was that? Even with my wine, I could sense the trepidation. You like I use trepidation as a
I'm
word.
kind of delving into like a supernatural adult type tale right now. So that'll be.
Oh, are you? What kind of supernatural adult type thing?
Well, maybe somebody with some weird gifts that does weird things to people or something.
All right.
Like he's already writing this. I like how he's being vague about it. So I'm assuming you're going to put that out under. Yeah, I assume you're going to put that out under a different pen name, correct?
I am, believe it or not. I am. I'm doing that.
I see.
Good.
And the thing with the weird gift is not a person; it's fame. So it kind of travels around the town and affects everybody that it touches in a weird way.
Oh, I like this. I like this. I feel like we've stumbled upon something secret.
So
We're
moving up from Twilight Zone into Night Gallery.
There you go. Night
right.
Gallery, yeah.
I like this. I like this. So what have you found that's a little different writing like that versus writing middle grade and younger?
And adults just think differently. So I don't know. Kids is just so easy because I'm thinking like a child when I'm writing it. When I'm writing this one, there's no stops. You know, you can do anything. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
So what do you like to read then?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that.
Oh, well, you should have noted that, and then I would have forgotten it because wine. Okay. So
don't ask me that.
We've gone full circle where we would have ended up anyway.
No, I read a lot. I'm a voracious reader, but I only read nonfiction.
Oh, good.
So, which is weird because people are like, you write fiction, but you only read nonfiction. Like, yeah, because I'm always reading biographies and American history and trivia. That's the kind of stuff I like to read. So I don't really read a lot of fiction.
Yeah, I write mostly nonfiction, and I like to read fiction. Because it's not my job, and it's like I have to read nonfiction because I have to research and all that. That's like my job.
I'm going to use that. Thanks. I'm going to use that.
There you go. So.
Okay, what was that? You don't get to give the guests like little get out of jail free cards. How the hell did that just happen?
What? Wait, hey, why am I here then? So
you're here because you're a pretty face. That's why you're here. Regretting that now. Let me just tell you.
Idea.
No. All right. So your presidential trivia. Who's your favorite president?
I have two answers, but my favorite number one I have to say is Thomas Jefferson. Which, if I say that, depending on who I'm saying that to, I'm going to get a look. So, but Thomas Jefferson is my favorite.
No judgment here. So
he did everything. He was a musician, a scientist, a planner. He did everything. So
his house is amazing. Yeah, I love Monticello. So.
Yeah, I haven't seen his house yet. I have to see it.
Worth a trip. All right. So who was number two?
Kennedy. Only because he was president when I was born. That's how old I am.
That's how it works.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Usually it's everybody's president when they were a teenager. That's the one everybody always remembers as their favorite.
Oh, really? Yeah. The first time I got to vote, Ronald Reagan. Because my dad said we're Republicans. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm voting for Ronald Reagan. Then I didn't think I had a choice. So I'm like,
that's how we do it. Yeah.
Wasn't it Mondale? Didn't he run opposite Mondale? Yeah. That wouldn't have been. That was an interesting choice year.
Usual, politics. Which donkey or elephant we're gonna follow. So but all right. So now my favorite thing with presidential trivia is always that there is so much to go into the little minutia and stuff like that. Yeah. And Jefferson, gosh, there's so much.
Yeah.
So, we'll have to do an episode on that at some point. So that'll be for the other time.
We are not doing an episode on presidential trivia.
Yes, we are.
Well, you don't have to. You can just read the book. See?
That's what we're going to do. We're going to pick up the book and we're going to read it out loud. And that'll be the episode.
That's the episode. That's going to be a riveting episode for everybody.
I'm going to ask you all the trivia and then laugh at you when you get it wrong. So.
Okay.
Well, Mark got mean on this last part of the.
Hey, the tea is kicking in.
I see that. Give you some caffeine and the world ends.
Curiosities. So yeah.
Okay, Mark, you get to ask the final question before shameless self-promotion.
All right. So, Rod, last question then. So, as you're right, you've been writing for kids for a long time. What is your one go-to that's your favorite thing to write for kids? What is your one go-to that you like to put into the book?
My favorite go-to is to put a group of kids, like it could be 2 or 3 or 4 kids, and put them, and I got this from Stephen King, put your characters in a situation and then let them figure it out.
Nice.
So that's what I do. I'll put like juniors, there's a serial killer in Tampa. The police can't figure it out. Guess what? These 4 middle school kids figured it out, and it's kind of stuff like that. I like to put kids in a situation and then just let them have at it. Nice. And by the way, I don't know if you guys are into plotting and pantsing.
Oh yeah.
That's a big topic I bring up all the time. I'm a pantser, so I don't have a plot or an outline. I just have a basic idea and I just run with it. So
Nice.
No, I do. I'm a solid pantser.
okay.
Mark, on the other hand,
Uh-oh.
is a plotter.
Yeah, for my
Oh.
fiction. For my fiction. I started as a ghostwriter, so they would give you specific outline that you had to do. And so, do this on this page, do this on this page, do this on this page, and then the rest is all up to you. But it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So I started that way, and that's how my brain works for it now. So
Wow. I got to get you on one of my panels at the Comic-Con, man. I think that would be cool.
He is very entertaining on panels.
I bet.
He is. I will connect you two up via email. We'll make that
Cool.
happen.
Yeah.
Hello, Drinking with Authors fans. This is your host, Erica Lance. Because of the change of the format of the show, welcome to the literary briefs portion. Enjoy. Rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. What is your favorite book of all time?
Man, rapid fire. Favorite book of all time. You probably never heard of it. It's a book called The King and His Six Friends.
No, I've never heard of that. Tell us about The King and the Six Friends.
It's probably, I call it the book that got me started back in elementary school. It's about this one prince or king, and he has to find a queen for his kingdom. So he's traveling to find her, and on the way, it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz. He finds all these different guys with different powers, and they help him get to the queen.
I
It was
like
a comic
that.
book before comic books were comic books to me, but it was a book in the library.
Okay. Least favorite book of all time?
I haven't read it yet, I guess.
Oh, that's a sneaky answer. Sneaky. If you could be any Marvel superhero and not Spider-Man, who would it be? I know you were going to say Spider-Man. You have to pick somebody else.
Any Marvel superhero. Captain America.
there you go.
Okay, you're just
Bravo.
throwing out names. What superhero would you not want to be?
Sue Storm.
Yeah.
The Invisible Woman. The Invisible Girl, rather. Because I'm not a girl.
Yeah, which writer? Yeah, exactly. When you're forced to name your firstborn child after Dr. Doom's choice, you got a problem. But all right. So my question is, which DC character would you like to be?
Superman.
Oh yeah.
Come on.
Okay. Yeah, come on. He's got all the good ones.
Yeah.
All right. What's your favorite super villain? Any?
Magneto.
Ooh.
No. Well, yeah, because I don't know if they count the Submariners as
Yeah.
a villain or a.
Depending on the week at Marvel.
Yeah, I know. I like him more. So.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. All right. Favorite book to TV adaptation or movie?
Well, see, I haven't read the book, so I would say anything by Stephen King, but I don't know. I haven't read any of his books.
Oh no, my friend, don't say
I
that.
think I made a mistake here.
Yeah,
Well-
that is. Even Stephen King does not think his adaptations are good adaptations.
See,
I will
don't
say
know.
the most
He likes
recent.
them, but he doesn't think they have anything to do with his stuff. He's like Alan
Oh,
Moore.
really?
Yeah, no. The most recent the first one, not the second one, was pretty close. It cut out a couple major large chunks like the space turtle and stuff like that, but it was closer than most of the movies have been to the books. So
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
What is your favorite? You mentioned this, I think, but your favorite Twilight Zone episode is the one with the astronauts?
No, my favorite one is To Serve Man.
Third Man, yeah. That's the one where
Remember that they're aliens and they're having humans get on the ship so they can show them their planet, but they're really going to eat them. And they leave a book called To Serve Man, we're thinking like, oh wow, they're here to serve us, and it's a cookbook.
That's
a
very
great
cool.
line at the end. It's a cookbook.
Yeah.
It's a cookbook, because
Don't get
people are
on
still
that
lining to
ship.
get up on the ships.
Yeah.
And the great Richard Keel from Moonraker playing the alien. So
Oh yeah.
That
that's
was
right.
a whole Mandela effect thing we had on our other podcast. Because Moonraker is one of the big Mandela effect things is braces. Don't
Oh.
get Mark started on the braces.
don't get me started on that. That's another whole show. So all right,
Yeah.
anyway. All right, so so we did that. What's your least favorite Twilight Zone episode?
It would probably, I don't know the name of it, but it's the one where Charles Bronson and Elizabeth Montgomery are in. They're like the last two people. I mean, they spend most of the time fighting. I'm like, get on with the story already, you know?
Yeah, and it's they're Adam and Eve. No.
Yeah.
That one was pretty terrible. I agree. All right, so now one of my always when I go to Twilight Zone stuff, I always love to talk Harlan Ellison, famous for writing a couple of Twilight Zone episodes and then not getting paid properly. So what is your go-to to make sure you get a paycheck for your writing?
Go-to to make sure I get a paycheck for my writing. Speaking at a conference.
There we go. All right. That'll do.
Okay, so when you create your official green room writer, what weird thing are you going to put on that?
Okay, you have to define green room writer.
So a lot of celebrities, when they go on shows, have what's called a
green writer.
What they expect in their writer. Like there's always been the joke about the only green M&Ms. Of course, that's back before you could order only green M&Ms, so that's not an issue anymore. But what weird, obscure thing do you want to put in your writer?
I would have to have a television with a DVD playing of Sanford and Son.
I like that you specified a DVD because that's a whole thing for people to set up.
Yeah. I don't want to stream it. You got to put a DVD in there.
Yeah, put DVD and I don't think all the episodes are on streaming because so many of them are lost. So
right.
The DVD. Yeah, I agree.
I like that. I like that. Okay, so you read a lot of nonfiction, right?
Right.
What is something that you look for in your nonfiction books?
I read nonfiction because I want to learn. So that's show me something that I haven't read already, so I'm constantly trying to learn something.
So I read a lot of nonfiction too. So does Mark. One of the things I find with nonfiction a lot of times is they're written like stereo instructions. And I know you're an IT guy, so it's, but I still want them to be good storytellers in the nonfiction that they're telling me, right?
Right.
So I always have to, when it comes to a nonfiction book, like read the first chapter before I buy it, because I'm like, can this person actually tell a story, even if they're explaining how to do something to me?
Mm-hmm.
Can they tell it in a way that I'm not like bored and want to chuck the book, even though
right.
So
it's got to be entertaining.
Do you have any of that experience at all when you're going through all these nonfiction books?
No. The only issues I've had are I've come to find out, I didn't know at the time when I was reading, I got a book on something American history and I started reading and I'm like, this book is so weird. And it was because it was an academic, it was written for academic. And the wording was just so severe. Yeah. It's like, it could put me to sleep because it was just, I could not finish reading it. So I don't remember what book it was, but I just could not finish reading it.
No,
I've never done that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It kind of upset me too. But
do you listen rock and roll, or do you listen to music when you're writing?
I do not.
What? I feel like I'm learning so many weird things. This is like trivia with you, Rod.
Yeah, like Stephen King.
Rod Martinez trivia.
Yeah, Stephen King plays heavy metal when he's writing. It's like, how do you write with that music going on like that? I can't do it.
I have to have music distracting from, but I can't have lyrics. So
okay.
I found a couple things, like somebody on this podcast, actually, on my podcast, introduced me to this thing called Cryo Chamber on YouTube, which is just, it's ambient, dark, kind of creepy music. And I write horror. So I'll listen to that, or if I'm writing, I'll listen to Celtic music and stuff, because I can't listen to the noises around, because then I start going, well, what was that? And then I'm distracted.
It was your Ring doorbell. That's what it was.
Hey, if we stay around long enough, you might hear the magic of my Ring doorbell. No, no, I live up in the mountains though. There are critters outside.
Now it's going to be a bear. Yeah, and so
Okay, I've had a bear set off my Ring doorbell, so don't joke about that.
No,
especially right before hibernation season, those bears are like, I need to find everything I can eat, and they will come out. And if you have even a molecule of something somewhere, they're like, I need to find that and eat that. So
All right, Rod. We're talking about things we fear. What's your worst fear?
My worst fear.
okay, let's do it this way because what's an irrational fear that you have?
Irrational fear, yeah. Yeah. What's an
A
irrational?
rational fear?
Irrational.
Irrational.
Irrational fear is like I'm afraid of a plane crashing into my house. That's a rational fear because that happens.
Yeah.
I'll die of a heart attack in the middle of talking to kids. I don't know.
Oh, that is bad. That is bad.
That's a rational fear, but that's not an irrational fear. Like, are you afraid of clowns?
Am I what?
Afraid of clowns or something? Like, that's an irrational fear.
No. I don't
No. He's like, no. There's a clown motel we were discussing earlier.
Oh.
Pictures
I never understood the fear of clowns. I never got that. I don't know why.
Some people don't get it. Some people do. It's just, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And let's see. So while Erica is frozen here, let's do what is your what do you think is your greatest strength as a writer?
My ability to capture the middle grade voice, I think, because I've been told that. So I think that's the best.
What is your Achilles heel then? What is something that you do as a writer that your editors are like, hey, you know what? Stop doing this thing.
Yeah, have words like, and right, because kids say that when they're talking, blah, 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 right? But I guess when you're putting it too much in the book, the editor's like, okay, cut this off. Like, that's how kids talk, but they don't want to read it all the time. So.
But those are words that they don't even realize they're saying.
Right.
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 Yeah.
So what about snacks? Do you have like a preferred I'm writing snack?
I do, believe it or not, grapes and cheese.
I'm a huge fan of mixing cheese with a lot of different things, which leads me to what is your favorite weird food combination?
Grapes and cheese. No.
It's like cheating. That's cheating.
The only weird thing I do is I put grapes in my cereal. I don't think that's weird, but
what? What kind of cereal is this?
Any cereal.
Grapes and
so
cereal.
You
it's
could
like
have
raisins in the cereal, but they haven't dried out yet.
Right. See? You should
very
try
different
it.
flavors. Very different flavors. When did you start?
I buy the Special K berries and I put grapes in.
Like whole grapes.
Now we're talking old stuff here, gang. So it's all good. So for those young,
I'm gonna have that after we finish talking. I think I'm gonna do that.
There you go.
Okay, that definitely threw me off. That's bizarre. If you could travel anywhere, like money no limit, where would you go?
My dream vacation would be Italy, only because I'm trying to learn the language and I would love to go to Italy. That would be awesome.
Very nice.
Very cool. What literary world would you like to visit?
How about Metropolis?
There you go.
No. I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan, but I would like to see Hogwarts. Although I've been to Universal Studios and I've seen what they have there. But I tell kids a lot. That's one of my big things. I'm like, when I talk about writing, I said, I was at Universal recently, and I said I was there looking at everything Harry Potter. I stood at the castle. I saw all the rides. I'm like, all of this came out of the mind of one lady. One person created all this stuff. I'm like, that was amazing to me. Just amazing.
It's very true. And it's got to be a really interesting thing when you see somebody. I mean, that's a huge exception if you look at how many writers are out there to having something, but it's got to be neat when somebody puts your writing into a physical form.
Yeah.
And you can have that with people cosplaying your characters and stuff too.
Yeah.
And having people show up at your table when you're signing and stuff dressed as one of your characters.
Right.
I think that's a very cool thing.
It'd be cool to see a kid dressed as the Gray Man. That's a good idea. I like that.
There you go. Now, we got to talk about Gray Man at some point, because there is a Gray Man ghost in North Carolina and the whole town embraces it. And one of my favorite things is the liquor store there is called Gray Man Spirits. So you should do a signing up there. You should do.
Where in North Carolina?
It's at Paulsley's Island. It's on the coast, and he's a ghost that shows up every hurricane, looking for his lost love, Gray Man. So I was like, that's why when I saw that, I was like, hey, wait a minute, But
Never heard of that one.
very good
and
stuff.
now you have, and it says you talk to Mark, you will find some of the most obscure ghosts and weird stories that you never thought you would know.
Yeah, you think you made it up, but it's probably in your head. The gray man probably put it there. So with that said, let's go. All right, so favorite Night Gallery episode.
I haven't watched that in a long time, but the one that always stuck out to me, that scared the life out of me, was the one. I don't know if it was a rat or something, and it looked like a brooch.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You put it on someone, the rat was just eating the person away and stuff, and it would just.
That was a Lovecraft one.
That freaked me out.
I think so. Yeah. No, I always, the one with the earwigs. Just I'm done.
Oh.
I'm out.
So you must have done really well with Wrath of Khan then.
Oh yeah, no, that was right from that. They even admitted that was a tribute to that that episode. So
yeah, I remember seeing that in theaters. I don't even know how old I was because I don't remember what year that movie came out. But I put cotton balls in my ears for years when I went to bed. I'm not even kidding. Because somebody explained to me what an earwig was and showed me a picture in the school library, and then I was done. I was like, nope.
Don't watch Night Gallery then. Don't watch Night Gallery then. So there's an episode with that's just terrifying. So
I gotta look it up now.
Yeah. Let's see. They even referenced it in a Mike Myers movie, which I can't remember. So I Married an Axe Murderer has a reference to it. But let's see. So all right. So you've got nonfiction as your preferred reading. You've got you're writing fiction. You love comic books. You love Twilight Zone, Night Gallery. We've got all this fun nerdy stuff. What is your nerdy collection? What do you like to collect?
Well, I collect bass guitars for one. If you see that, that's just one of the many that I have. I don't know how many I have. I collected comic books as a kid. I still have 2 boxes full of them from the 70s and the 60s. So I tell my son that's his inheritance. And I don't know. I like pens. I like Scooby-Doo stuff. Marilyn Monroe stuff. I'm just into all kinds.
Scooby-Doo stuff.
Yeah, I love Scooby.
Yeah.
And we make reference all the time to Scooby on the show. We're like, we're going to go back in time. We're going to Scooby-Doo this and go back to the beginning. So what about, what do you consider your perfect writing environment? Like if you were in your absolute zen for writing, what would that look like?
See, to me, the best thing is sitting in a comfortable desk and a comfortable chair with not a lot of stuff around me. So I could be at a really nice desk on my laptop and I'm set with that. Maybe Sanford and Son in the background. I don't know. But
so you travel back in time and you can either meet Rod Serling or Stan Lee. Who is it? Who wins the toss?
Oh, Stan Lee, yeah.
Okay.
Big time.
Nice.
Yeah. And I've gone to all these Comic Cons and I never got to meet him, and now he's gone.
I always tell people, if somebody's at a Comic-Con, go out of your way. Don't think, I can see him another time.
Right.
Because you never know what's going to happen. Ever in this world. So
and the key thing is the Comic Cons, you meet all these cool people. I met people from Back to the Future, and just really cool. All kinds of people show up.
It's good stuff.
What's always fun is when the celebrities walk around and they pick up your books and stuff like that. I love that.
That would be cool.
Celebrity, come into my world. Come.
Yeah.
I'll do my Kiss references when Peter Criss walked by us at Spooky Empire one time, and he walked by my table and he looked at my book and he went, "I'll got that," and then just kept walking. I was just like, ah!
Oh wow, Peter Criss, dude.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, this is amazing. I'm like, if you want, I'll sign this one, and then you can give me your copy that you had, and you can sign.
With your address where I can stalk you, Mark, that doesn't come off as creepy at all.
No, not weird. Not in a weird way. We're gonna be best friends. It's all good.
Okay. Keeping you away from Peter Criss. That seems like a bad plan.
It's probably a good idea now.
So what fantastical creature would you be if you could turn into anything mythological or fantasy based? What kind of creature would you be?
I just did an episode with a unicorn.
Nice.
Probably be a unicorn.
So ironically, do you know they have found BBC television has BBC announced that scientists have found skeletal remains that they think actually is a unicorn.
Get
But
out.
no, I'm not even kidding.
Yep.
It's a creature. It's not like a horse, like, it's not like from the movie Legend, it's not that. It's a smaller creature, but they found some skeletons with this creature with a tiny horn that's kind of horse shaped and smaller. And
Yeah, they were saying it was more like a donkey, but still, yeah, it could have been, they're saying from not as long ago as we'd think, so it could have had people interacting with it. So,
dude,
so,
a unicorn.
Yeah, crazy. BBC of all places pointed out.
yeah.
And of course, right before the coronation of the new king. So I have no idea where that came.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
No, that would be interesting. What is your favorite riding outfit to wear? What are you most comfortable riding in?
T-shirt and shorts.
Nice.
No, you're in Florida, so you can't.
Yeah, you got to. We have our 9 months of summer here in Tampa Bay. So
yeah, tell me about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
so
glad.
where north in the mountains? One more time. Where north in the mountains are you? I mean, you're like.
Well, I was about to say one of us is the one that's supposed to have been drinking, my friend.
I don't know what's in this coffee, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Dunkin' Donuts.
Something other than blueberry in that
You'll
coffee.
note it was Tampa Dunkin' Donuts. So that explains quite a bit.
There you go.
Yeah.
I live in Western North Carolina, so I live about 45 minutes south of Asheville in a tiny little town. But I live up on a mountain. I use Starlink internet, so that's why sometimes my internet goes in and out, because there's a house literally 400 feet away from me that gets a 1 gig of fiber, but they won't run it the rest of the way up the mountain.
Oh no.
No matter how much I offer to pay them to do it, they will not do it.
You just need to go down to that neighbor and then just run an Ethernet cord from their house to yours. That's what I would do.
Trust me, I have thought about it. And there are many days that I'm like, I bet I could wrap this around several trees and just go all the way up the mountain.
Make your own power line. That's it. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Until the bears find it,
Yeah. Well, then
there are bears. It's interesting because I moved from Florida about 2 years ago now. And not that there isn't wildlife in Florida, because gators, if you try to explain gators to people up here, they don't quite get the magnitude of like gator mating season.
Yeah.
And the mosquitoes I consider an animal, and the palmetto bugs, I also consider them an animal because they're the size of a squirrel flying at your face. But it is very different when you're around and you're in a place like this with nature, because there are foxes there. I joke about the bears, but I had to build a trash can enclosure because last year in November, the bears got into my trash can 3 times in a row in 1 week.
Wow.
And there wasn't anything new in the trash cans, but they smell whatever, and they just decimate. And it's not like they pick through and they're like, "Oh, I like this," and walk away. Like, it is all over your driveway and stuff.
Oh man.
And then one time I went out there, after the 3rd time, I was like, oh my gosh. And I ended up putting them inside a shed because I was like, I got to do something. But I hear them coming up the driveway, and you have to use your car alarm and stuff to scare them off.
Oh,
because they're not scared off by humans.
Oh.
So different world, my friends, living.
I see.
Down here, we just have to worry about the meth mosquitoes, and
Oh
you should have brought an alligator up there,
Yeah, exactly. That would solve your problem. So
and it would have frozen.
Yeah, that's true.
Do gators freeze? I'm assuming gators would get frozen.
They hibernate. They hibernate. They can freeze, but most likely they'll hibernate. Yeah.
Wow.
Not in my rushing lake. I don't have a lake. Where the hell would it go? In my storage container. I have my hibernating gator in my storage container. That is a story in and of itself, right there.
Make a pond,
There's a new novel right there for you.
Hibernation Gator 101. Okay, Mark, you're gonna get the final question, so I'm gonna ask one. Who would you base your initial books off of your son and his friends, but now who would you get to play those characters?
Now him, so I'd love to just pick a school and just have some pick some kids out of school and have them play it. Because every time I talk about the juniors out of school, they're one of the first questions is like, what if they make a movie? Would you pick me? You know, it's like, I'd let the director pick any one of you guys. I don't care. As long as you make a movie on my book, I'm happy. So.
Nice.
I like that. I like it. Okay, Mark,
All
final
right.
question.
Ultimate question, ultimate nerd question. Who wins in a fight, Captain America or Batman?
Captain America.
Yeah. All right. I think that tips the poll. I think we're on the right side now. I think Cap wins. I agree.
Got the super
George Perez,
soldier
who drew JLA Avengers, said Captain America would be Batman. He had Batman say it to Cap. So.
Oh wow.
He said you could beat me, but it would be a tough fight, and I think we're on the same side. So let's not do it.
Yeah, it'd be a worthy fight.
Yeah, that would be the winner of that would be us, honestly.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
We're
I had to go
nerds. We can't
nerdy.
help it.
Sorry.
I'm gonna seriously debate allowing you to ask final questions anymore, just so you know. Rod, where do people find you in your books?
You can go online to rodmartinez.us, like United States, or Facebook, author Rod Martinez.
Awesome. Awesome. It has been fantastic having you on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was fun.
Absolutely.
You guys are a good group of guys. So.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. And when Mark's not, stalking Peter Chris. So
yeah.
I'm gonna get messages.
We're gonna get that restraining order ahead of game. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Okay, guys, this has been Drinking with Authors, the Literary Briefs edition. I've been your host, Erica Lance. My co-host today has been the amazing Mark Muncy from Erie Travels. Our guest has been Rod Martinez. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave comments, review. We'd love to hear it all, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.